Chris Landry. Find him on X at Landry Football. LandryFootball.com is the website. Chris, Happy New Year, sir. Good to have you back on. How are you?
Happy New Year to you and all the listeners. I'm doing great. Excited about the NFL playoffs, the game tonight. Great weekend of football.
Chris, let's talk about tonight. Before we do tonight, your thoughts on, because we were obviously off the air, didn't get a chance to visit with you. We got two great games last weekend, Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Texas, and both games down to the wire. Your thoughts on those two ball games, and then, of course, as we turn into tonight, there's a lot of back and forth on can Michael Penix and Washington put stress on Michigan. I personally think Michigan will be able to run the football tonight. I think their front seven is a difference, but I want to get your take on everything tonight.
Yeah, I think, very impressed, first of all, with Michigan's performance over Alabama. I guess I was a little bit perplexed in that after I saw Alabama dominate at the line of scrimmage against Georgia, saw another team that was not able to tackle Jalen Milroe, I wasn't convinced that Michigan was going to be able to do it. Great game plan. No question that Michigan outcoached and outplayed and was more physical than Alabama. And I thought they really, while the game certainly was not a blowout, I thought they manhandled them when it mattered the most. And I thought key mistakes by Michigan kept the game closer than it probably should have been, because Alabama really had no answer. Poor snaps was a part of it. You neutralize Milroe as a runner, and you're not going to be good enough. You're not going to have enough passing game. And in retrospect, I look at it and think, man, what a great job Alabama did getting this far without a passing game. Michigan was able to, down the stretch, when they needed to, was able to run the football and dominate the line of scrimmage on that last couple of drives. So very impressed by what they did defensively up front, how they manhandled Alabama's offensive line, and then I thought they were able to move the football when they needed to against Alabama's defense, and at times got Alabama misaligned with their pre-snap alignment. So really good job by Michigan. Thought Washington, in similar ways, outplayed Texas. I thought they were close to winning that game, maybe more decisively. Then they had the muff punt, and then the game became in doubt and just had a little trouble putting Texas away. But Penix is so good. The receivers are so good. You can slow them down, but you can't stop them for four quarters. And I am just tickled about this game because everything about this is just complete opposites. You've got Michigan that wants to play one way at the line of scrimmage, be physical. You mentioned it. You're right. They want to run the football, take the air out, believe they can run the football at Washington. If they can do that successfully, they'll be successful in this game. But if Washington's able to get some early points and make Michigan play from behind, and Michigan does not want to play a shoot them out type of game, I don't think so. Everything about them is just how they approach it's different. I know both coaches fairly well. They're completely different personalities. You couldn't get more difference than that. I thought about this morning. I have no idea why I thought about this because I don't think about these things. But you think about UW and UM, and you just turn a M upside down and it's a W and vice versa. I mean, everything about it is so different, and I think this makes it so tantalizing. And I hope the folks, I know in the Deep South where we are, they're in withdrawals because you can't have a championship if there's not a Southern team in it. But if you like football and you're just into the minutia of football like I am, I think this game could be a great matchup. I hope it's close, but it's kind of how I see the matchup and the strength and the weaknesses of both teams.
Chris Landry on your radio talking national championship game, Michigan-Washington, just a few hours away from kickoff. And, of course, Monday edition of the program. Find him on X at Landry Football, formerly Twitter, and, of course, check him out, LandryFootball.com. Chris, you said you hope it's close. I'm with you there. If there was going to be a one-sided matchup, which way would it go?
Oh, I think the one-sided matchup would likely be that somehow Michigan makes mistakes, turns the football over. Washington, so explosive, scores quickly, and all of a sudden you turn around, and before you know it, before anything's really settled, you got a 20-0 lead. And then you got Michigan, which if it's early, Michigan's not going to get away from the running game. But if you get into, so it won't be a blowout from the jump. But if we get into the fourth quarter and somebody's down 7, if Michigan's down 17, And they got to start to throw it more. I think that's not a good formula. So I think that Washington would have a better chance to explode and win. I think if Washington's down 17, they can score quickly. So I think that Washington would be more likely to be able to win it decisively in terms of points. But certainly Michigan is capable of being the more physical team and maybe controlling this game. As I mentioned, I thought they were basically, I don't know if I'd use the word dominant, but very close to dominant against Alabama. Yet the darn thing went in overtime. I mean, they almost lost it with a muff punt at the end. I mean, there are a lot of things that I'm a believer of this. It's not the big plays that you make in a game like this. It's the reducing the amount of mistakes. The teams that make the least amount of mistakes, usually wins games like this. It's not the plays that you make; it's the plays you don't make. And I think it's it's not how good you are when you're at your best; it's how good you are when you're at your worst. So, who can play left-handed the best and manage to hang in there? That's how I see these games usually playing out.
No, I would agree with you 100%. And you look back at the Alabama football game. I mean, J.J. McCarthy got lucky. On the first play of the game because the defender was out of bounds just a little bit and then came back in and picked it off. I mean, we're talking about inches on the white line. The muff punt in the after that, and then of course in the fourth quarter, Michigan played sloppy at a lot of times where Washington has not. They've been in a lot of close ball games. I mean, you look at some of these wins that they have. So I don't know that a fourth quarter tight ball game is going to affect Washington as much. But looking at this, who do you like to win the ball game tonight?
I've gone back and forth, and I don't feel real comfortable. I thought Alabama would beat Michigan. Heck, I thought Georgia would beat Alabama. So I don't know that anybody should pay attention to what I think. I mean, something what I do think is a little different is how they played against Alabama was impressive, but you're not going to hold Washington down. Offensively, they'll get some points. They will score, and they'll score if they got 9 possessions or 12. I mean, they'll score. But I think Michigan will score too. I don't know, and I'm not a big, it's just Michigan's year and it's their destiny. It's this. I'm really, truly not sure which way to go. I guess if you pin me down, I might give an edge to Washington, and I think we went over kind of the keys. But I'll maybe go a little bit there. But man, I think this is going to be could go either way.
Chris, a lot of chatter about the team talent between Michigan and Washington versus other years. When you look at recruiting rankings and 5-star this, 5-star that, Washington doesn't fit the typical profile of a championship team. Michigan right there on the outside of a Georgia, of an Alabama. And a lot of people saying, hey, is this an outlier year or is this, due to the transfer portal? Will we see more of Washington-esque teams next year? What is your thought on that? Because I think it may be somewhat of an outlier. I mean, you look at Georgia coming back next year with all the talent that they have, and their quarterback is going to be, a year older. Bama brings back most everybody. They'll have to replace some guys in the secondary that's off to the National Football League. Milroe's a year older. Texas, you look at some other teams as well. What is your thoughts on these two teams kind of being outliers this year, and what does that mean for the future?
Well, here's what I think is the era that we're in now. So much focus is on, with the transfer portal and recruiting, who they sign, this and that, and rank number 1, and then they're top 5 class. It doesn't matter who you sign, it's who you keep. If you sign a number 1 class or a 5 class or top 5 class, whatever, do you develop them? Do they stay in your program? If they leave, do you replace them adequately? Can you get those new transfer portal guys acclimated? I mean, because what is happening today is it's difficult for the elite programs, the Georgias, the Alabamas, to have quality backups like they used to. You telling me an Alabama team that can't snap the ball? I mean, are you kidding me? That they don't have a center. And trust me, if they had one that was better, that could snap better and block, he'd have been playing by week 4 or 5. That's a depth issue that those teams have never had to face. And with NIL and transfer portal, I think what we're seeing is who can keep those guys. Now, you're looking at Washington, and people will say, well, they're not ranked. There's nobody that's a quarterback nobody has a quarterback like that. I mean, they got guys in the NFL don't have a quarterback like that. And they've got 3 receivers that are NFL guys. They've got tackles that are NFL pass protectors. They're pretty talented. They may not be ranked, like in the top 5, but you know how that works too, is these rankings have a lot to do with who's recruiting them. A kid, because the websites, they don't evaluate players. They gather information. So you got a player out there, and I don't know if people are aware of this, how this works. So do this a lot. If you got more subscribers that are Alabama or Georgia subscribers, it's going to be more tone to that as opposed to maybe nondescript programs. So you don't have as many subscribers at Washington or whatever, then maybe you don't get ranked as high. It's reality. The other thing is that there's an assumption. You got a kid that's a 3-star kid, and Alabama starts recruiting him, and then Georgia, and then Ohio State. That kid's going to go to a high 4-star or a 5, very quickly. So I think there's a lot of perception. And then do they go there, and how are they developed? I think that Washington's very talented. And with Michigan, you know what they remind me of? They remind me of that team that stays together for 2-3 years and develop as a team. They may not be a collection of the best players in the country, but you look at that, they go 9 deep on the defensive line. And they're not guys that are going to be picked in the top 10, most of them. But, boy, they're physical, they're quick, they got a tremendous motor. The linebackers in the defensive line work stunts and twists very well. The secondary keeps eyes on defenders. I think you can beat their secondary deep with elite guys, and we're going to see if they do it tonight against these great receivers against them. But they're well coached, they're fundamental, they're tough, they're physical, and same way on the offensive line. I mean, I just think that you've got 2 teams that have been developed very well that do have great talent. And quite frankly, when I look at it, I mean, I know stars and whatnot, Alabama's got more, but, Jalen Milroe is a passer. You when you become that one-dimensional, you got issues. I think Texas is very good, and I thought they were as good and as complete as anybody in the 4 teams. And so, but they, Washington was just a little bit better and was a little bit more explosive. So I don't know. I think we could be seeing a little bit of a change because where is the depth going to be? So to me, it's not just where they're ranked on signing day, but where would we rank that class 3 years from now? Because where are those players? How have they been developed, and where are they? It's as simple as that, as I see it.